Hi, my name's Peter Beale. I work with local land services at Taree and been doing a project with Josh Hack on a dairy farm with a high phosphorus level. This project's been funded by MEMS project, the Clean Coastal Catchment, and we're looking over a 3-year period what happens to phosphorus that's already in the soil, and are we going to get a response when the soil tests are telling us it's very high. So the trial we're doing is looking at no phosphorus. We're looking at different rates of phosphorus, and they're particularly interested if the ryegrass is going to benefit by putting that little bit of phosphorus with the seed, even though the phosphorus levels are high. And Josh, we've got 16 plots. What have we been finding?
Yeah, so interesting. It's a really high P site, so it's 400 parts per million for Colwell. We're talking anything over 80 is sufficient for what we want. And we find across a lot of the dairies that it's very, very high phosphorus. So we don't want to be wasting our money on something we don't need. The trial's been going now for this year, for the whole ryegrass year, and we've just done our last cut for our ryegrass. We're going to cut it through the summer as well, just to get some measurements around the KQ and keep that site going. So it's all fenced off from the cows, and it's all going to be measured going forward. So interestingly, looking at the data at the moment, really no results from the phosphorus. So whether we put zero phosphorus or high rates of phosphorus, we haven't seen any yield benefits at all. But you'll see there from the results that with our basals, which is our nitrogen, our potassium and our sulfur, where we apply that, just so that we can see the difference just from the phosphorus, we're getting huge responses. So it's a really nitrogen-hungry environment. We're growing a lot of ryegrass, a lot of KQ in those systems, higher rainfall environments as well. But we're getting a lot of yield responses from those basals, which we know and we see. But what it also shows is if you are putting ryegrass in and things like that, you do need to fertilise it to get the response and to get the use out of that money you spend. And we'll show you some pictures over that as well. So, yeah, look, it's early days yet, but we're going to deplete that phosphorus down out of the soil. That's why we're doing it for 3 years. So we want to try and use some of that that phosphorus up. So those zero plots that have had no phosphorus all year, but we're still growing tons and trying to get that phosphorus to get used. And then as we go into next year through the summer, we'll try and deplete that phosphorus level down and see where that ends up coming out after 3 years. And we should hopefully start to see some results. Really high phosphorus environments, just really showcasing we don't need to be using it in those environments.
One of the key strategies that we have in terms of reducing phosphorus levels on farms is to try and improve the nitrogen production and get really good growth in our ryegrass and our clover. And what that does is it produces more feed, and it actually removes some of that phosphorus and it brings it down over time. So Josh, you've seen that in the trial, that when we applied nitrogen and sulfur, we got really good growth.
Yeah.
And didn't need any phosphorus.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you have a look at the data, like we're talking, 3 times as much growth, where we're actually adding other nutrients so that we can use that phosphorus. Where if we're not applying those other nutrients, we're not able to remove that excess phosphorus as much. So all the plants are going to need that other extra nutrient, be it mainly nitrogen, but with some potassium and stuff as well, to try and get that growth. So you're removing that phosphorus out of the system. And like I said, in a beef system or in a chicken litter system where there's been chicken litter used for a long time, it's the exact same scenario. And it's about trying to get some of that nitrogen in the system, and that is using legumes. So legumes can fix some nitrogen for us, help us try and get that nitrogen in the system and utilise that phosphorus. And it's a lot better for your back pocket and making more production, but also for the environment as well.
Yeah. And a lot of these things are fairly simple, like to get clovers back into the system. A lot of it's about grazing management, particularly in the autumn, keeping the pastures short so the clovers can germinate and be a part of the pasture. It's also about grazing on time so that light gets to the clovers and it's not outcompeted by the grasses. And these are fairly simple, cost-effective ways of improving productivity overall, but also just using the legumes to to drive nitrogen and lower those phosphorus levels back to a point where it's agronomically safe to do so.